Chapter 1 Azrael Garcia. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Soul Card. An existence that's present in all human beings living in the world of Gaia. The major functionality of the card is to gather the power of one's soul that's hidden inside of it, and with its help, the user can bring out his strength to the world. While everyone is born with a soul card, but only a few special individuals, 1 out of 1,000 can awaken their power. Such beings are known as Arcana Masters. And the representation of their power is known as Arcana. Arcana is divided into 3 categories, namely, the Tool-type Arcana, Beast-type Arcana, and Plant-type Arcana. For the past 100,000 years of civilization, there's never a human who was able to awaken any other type other than those 3. Yet, there exists a clan that hid itself from society for thousands of years and possesses such type of exception in the form of their clan leader. It's the Death Clan, a clan that existed solely to maintain the balance between life and death. Teacher, how is it possible for such a clan was able to stay hidden even to date? A kid asked a young man, who looks like he's in his late 20s but in truth, he's more than 1,000 years old. The teacher shook his head with a sigh. No, it no longer exists. The clan collapsed after their clan leader went missing, 500 years ago. An 8-year-old girl raised her hand, and asked, Teacher, I heard that Death Clan's last clan leader, the legendary Azrael Garcia, is one of our alumni. Can you tell us about him? Azrael. A lot of scenes appeared in his head. Looking at the students who seemed very interested as soon as the name up by the Moon Clan's princess, the teacher nodded in agreement. Yes, he was a student at this school, 1,000 years ago. He is. The bell rang, reminding him that the class is over. As soon as he heard it, the young man stopped his lesson and started to take the books before leaving away. Suddenly remembering something, he turned towards the students and spoke, By the way, the school trip to the Arcana world is decided in the first week of the next month. The class erupted in cheers with excitement, hearing the good news. Leaving the class, the teacher glanced in a certain direction and mumbled, When are you going to return, Azzy? Are you even alive? 1,000 years ago, December 31st, year 2015, 11th epoch, Southern Kudur Nation, Lazurian Province, town of Sleia. A small town located at the banks of a river with a population of little over 50,000, filled with common people who aren't blessed with enough soul power. And yet, there's a Hall of Arcana, constructed in the town to test everyone's soul power only because of the fact that a living 7-star Arcana Master once hailed from this town, several centuries ago. Even though, a couple of talented kids appear every year, alas, none of them were able to break past the 4-star and increase their lifespan. As a result, they just disappear in history. It was the last day of the year. People of the town are decorating their houses and the town administration is busy cleaning the snow on the streets just like every year. On the west side of the town, where most residences are located, there's a large house built with even a courtyard, which seemed a bit out of place when compared to the surrounding residences. One look at it, anyone can figure out that the people living in the house are very rich. All people in the town respect the family not because they are rich but because of another reason. The family that resides in the house belongs to the only 4-star healer in the town, who heals every patient without taking a single copper coin as a fee. Grandpa, look! I did it! An 8-year. Old boy spoke with excitement, wiping off his sweat. His skin was a healthy wheat color, his black short hair appeared very neat, and his clothes, though simple, were clean. Good job, Azzy. You are progressing very well. The grandfather smiled widely, feeling proud of his grandson. I don't think I'm talented as you, Grandpa, replied the boy. He took out a recovery card from the basket beside him and recovered his soul power. Next. Filling his soul power, the boy took out a basic healing card from the basket and placed it on the forehead of the next patient who seemed to be suffering from high fever. Heal. The boy spoke without taking any rest. Visible green energy erupted from the card and started flowing into the girl's body while the boy is concentrating on directing the energy to remove the illness. As the card disappeared, her body's temperature became normal while his soul power became empty once again. A few hours later, the boy wiped his sweat once again. His hand started to shake a bit. "Take rest, Azzy," the 4-star healer said, after realizing his grandson's condition. The boy lies on the floor, mumbled as he stared at the ceiling. "I wonder what will awaken on my soul card. What are you wishing for?" The grandpa asked, hoping to hear something pleasant like a unicorn, the beast that'll be helpful for a healer, or maybe, something like a ginseng that'll increase healing efficiency. It was known that once, a 7-star healer with a unicorn as his arcana can revive the dead within a certain time limit. That's why arcana masters with unicorn beast-type arcana will be sought out by the Empire. The boy replies, "Maybe, a tool-type arcana." Ha! His grandfather was taken aback by his response, remembering something. Meanwhile, the next patient entered the room and the boy's attention shifted to him for a second. A dark aura surrounded the old man, who was carried by his 2 sons. "There's no use in saving him," a mumble escaped from the boy. What did you say?" asked the grandfather. "Nothing." The boy turned his body to the side and mumbled to himself again as he closed his eyes, "Not again." The day went by with everyone celebrating the last day of the year and getting ready to welcome the new year. As the first day of the new year arrived, the streets were once again bustling with crowds. Parents are accompanying their kids to the Hall of Arcana, where a 3-star arcana master appointed by the mayor of the nearby city will arrive and test them with an awakening scroll. It's also called the Awakening Ceremony. Children ranging from 8 to 12 years of age from nearby villages and towns will come here every year on this day, to awaken their soul card. Those who were able to acquire arcana will be recommended to Larnwick Academy, and those who only get a blank soul card will be returning to their ordinary lives. State your name and age. The 3-star arcana master asked the boy. Azrael, 8 years old. Upon hearing the name without any surname for the nth time, the arcana master sighed, "Another commoner. I thought this kid is noble judging by how everyone outside is respecting his grandfather and gave their spot to the kid. I was a fool to even think that a noble is living in his shabby town. Or maybe, this kid isn't his real grandson. Mr." Reaching his hand, Azrael called out, to bring him back to reality. The arcana master told the boy to place his hands on the scroll. As he made an incantation, Azrael heard his heartbeat loud and clear at once before feeling something warm in his chest. His surroundings were replaced by the scenery. The boy was standing at the edge of a cliff, staring at the barren land filled with countless corpses while dozens of black lightning struck continuously with clouds covering all over the sky. Slowly, a dark aura started releasing from them and formed a giant specter with a skull and skeleton body. It has a long, black cloak. The cloak wraps all the way around the specter's body and shrouds his face beneath a deep hood, loose and tattered. The creature carries a strange weapon in its right hand. It's a long pole with a curved blade fixed to the top, almost like a scythe the farmer used to harvest the crops, but only that this seems bigger, not as curvy as them. An hourglass is hanging around his waist with the help of a rope. Looking at the specter before him, fear enveloped Azrael and his whole body started shivering. Then, the creature spouted a few words. "Azrael Garcia, child of the Death Clan, receive my power." Chapter 2, A Scythe and A Hourglass. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Azrael Garcia, child of the Death Clan, receive my power. The boy was stunned upon hearing the words of the specter. There's a blinding flash before him. Coming back to reality, Azrael closed his eyes, instinctively covering them with his right hand, felt a heaviness in his left hand, followed by hearing a sound as if something metal struck the floor. Meanwhile, he also felt he grabbed something with his right hand. Opening his eyes, the boy saw the scythe in his left hand, which looks identical to the weapon that was carried by the strange creature he saw during his awakening. Meanwhile, in his right hand, there's an hourglass, which contains white sand. Looking at the two weapons in each hand, the examiner was stupefied in a shock, a twin arcana. But, as his attention was placed on the white soul card, he immediately shook his head and dispelled such a thought. No, there's only one soul card. Both of them must be a set. Then, again, this intensity. He stared at the scythe in Azrael's left hand and thought, that weapon must be at least of purple-grade quality. On the other hand. Then, he turned towards the hourglass. This one emits nothing. Strong should smell like strong and weak should smell like weak. But, this one smells like nothing. Strange, indeed. I should ask the master about it. After inspecting the weapons, he then looked at the boy. Can't believe I was able to find a gem in such a small town. At the same time, Azrael is also stunned, although for a different reason. As he caught the floating soul card, he saw the ghoulish humanoid creature's picture on the card, instead of the scythe and the hourglass. A beast type. I thought I awakened an arcana weapon. No, this isn't a beast type. It resembles a human, except that it's a skeleton. Necromancy. No, it isn't. Then, remembering the words of the spectre, the boy fell into deep thoughts. Wait a second. The skeleton addressed me as Azrael Garcia. I have a last name. Congratulations, Azrael. You have awakened a strong tool. Set type arcana in your soul card. A voice resounded across the chamber, bringing him back to reality. Thank you. Azrael bowed in response and both of the weapons disappeared from his hands along with the soul card with just a thought, surprising the examiner even more. The examiner then took a form out of nowhere and handed it to him. You can go and sit in the corner and fill this form. Next, despite being a first-grade student, he filled the form without any external help and quickly handed it to the examiner after another awakening ceremony is finished. The examiner, who was brimming with happiness, started thinking of how he will be rewarded for scouting a high-potential candidate, spoke, the letter from the academy will reach your house in a week. Azrael gave a simple nod in response, starting to get uncomfortable for some reason, suddenly. Meanwhile, the Arcana Master continued after sending away another failure. The Academy of Larnwick starts in the first week of April. So, you can't write final exams at your school. It's better for you to drop out of school and focus on training for the next 4 months. Let me tell you something important. Assigning of the classes will be decided by test results on the first day. So, you should at least become a 1-star master to get into the top class. Azrael nodded, I understand. The Arcana Master was taken aback by his change in tone before calling the next person to enter. As he left the chamber, he deeply frowned while feeling extremely uncomfortable as if his whole body is itching for something but it is unknown what it is craving for. Leaving the hall, he quickly found his grandfather who was busy chatting with fellow townsmen. Grandpa. A cold voice resounded across the hall, scaring a few children of the same age. His grandfather, Oakley frowned at first but then, misunderstanding that his grandson might have turned out to be a blank, he quickly left the group and left the hall amid gazes of everyone who shake their heads with a sigh. As Azrael sit in the back seat in silence, the grandpa started to drive towards his home. It wasn't until they reached the home did Oakley ask the boy about his awakening. No, I didn't awaken a blank soul card, replied the boy. Then, did you get a weak plant? Type arcana. Azrael shook his head, no. The examiner said mine is a strong one. See. With just a single thought in mind, a scythe with a long handle appeared in his left hand while an hourglass appeared in his right. All of a sudden, a strange silence enveloped the house of 4-star Arcana Master Oakley as he stared at the scythe and the hourglass in the hands of his precious grandson. When he saw the scythe, his expression changed to that of serious, but when his eyes landed on the hourglass, the old man almost lost his balance for a second. Grandpa, are you all right? Little Azrael asked in worry, but his eyes and his tone appeared rather indifferent. I'm fine. Oakley then knelt to the boy's height and inspected carefully the hourglass after asking him, especially the pure white sand inside of it. Sands of time. No way. Whispered Oakley before he shouted, Ethar. Yes, milord. As soon as his name was heard, he appeared beside them. Quickly, bring the Book of Death from my room. It is located in the third drawer of my desk. Oakley ordered as if he was in a hurry, leaving the boy in confusion. Book of Death. Why does it so sound familiar? Then, he remembered the second part of the sentence that the spectre spouted. That's right. It called me the child of the Death Clan. Do both of them have any connection? Milord. The servant reappeared quickly as if he was teleporting to and fro before handing a thick book to the old man. Azrael glanced over the book. The surface and the pages of the book appeared rather old, but the most distinctive feature of the book is the 3D drawing of a skull on its cover. The old man continuously turned the pages and stopped at one. Then, he started to stare back and forth between the book and the hourglass as if he was comparing the pictures. The boy found the smile on his grandfather becoming wider each second as he is reading something, and then, closing the book, he saw Oakley close his eyes and mumble, yes. It's the Sands of Time. That means the other one is the Scythe of Death. Finally, after several millennia, it reappeared. What reappeared, Grandpa? Azrael asked him curiously, bringing him back to reality. What does Sands of Time mean? Instead of answering, Oakley grabbed his grandson's shoulders and stared into his eyes. I'll tell you later. I'm going to visit a place, tomorrow. Until I return, you should stay here. Where? Asked Azrael. Home, answered the old man. Ha. Chapter 3 Leaving the Home. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The next day, his grandfather disappeared and the clinic was closed. Since he was neither attending the school nor helping out at the clinic, boredom took over Azrael. Lying on his bed, he started to think about the events that occurred earlier. Looks like I indeed have a surname. Perhaps the Death Clan is one of the noble clans in some kingdom. Everyone knew that only nobles are allowed to have surnames in the continent to distinguish among themselves. If anyone dares to have a surname without any proof, the only thing that awaits them is death. Considering how rich they are, Azrael started to wonder whether they are fallen nobles, hiding from their kingdom in this small town. That can also explain why his grandfather is a 4-star healer. To fulfill his curiosity, he went upstairs to his grandfather's room and checked the desk. Third drawer, is it? As he pulled out the drawer, he found the book was placed in it. Without touching anything else, he took the book to his room and started reading it. The Death Clan is one of the 9 hidden clans that exist for 100,000 years, founded by a noble family of the Empire of Arcana. Azrael Garcia, also known as the Angel of the Death, is the founder of the clan. Oh. I have the same name as the founder. Cool. The starting pages of the book told about the origins of the clan, and how it started. Then, it tells about the story of the youngest child of the noble family Garcia, who slowly paved his path from a weak kid to one of the angels. Then, it mentions the 10-year war with the demons and elves that brought the ancient empire of Arcana to ruins and led the 9 noble families, starting a clan to stay hidden for the sake of mankind while new empires started to rise. Because he was still a child, Azrael wasn't able to understand the meaning behind a lot of words. So, he skipped a lot of things and searched for the information of Hourglass. While turning the pages, he stumbled on the scythe's info. So, my weapon isn't a simple scythe but a death scythe, huh? Let's see. As he proceeds to read the abilities of the death scythe that their founder has, Azrael was taken aback. This. No wonder it is called the death scythe. If my weapon is the same one, then, my soul skills will be also the same, right? For an 8-year-old bright kid, who learned that his weapon isn't used for protecting but solely based on killing, it should be a heavy shock that can shake his heart. On the contrary, Azrael was calm and collected. He frowned as he felt it was normal. Ever since the awakening ceremony, something changed in me. Only then did he realize the changes in him must have been because of the awakening ceremony. But, he still didn't realize how he was changed though. Putting aside those thoughts, for now, he continued to read the book. The next page has information about the death skull, which was used by one of the clan heads. Then, it has the death note, which was used by another clan head. Then, a sword of death, Cerberus, ghostly and skeleton version of beasts like ghostly horse, skeletal dragon, etc. The series of pages contains various arcana used by the past clan heads. Azrael found one more peculiar thing. Many arcana weapons are repeated with the same set of soul skills, which kinda confused him a bit as they weren't supposed to be. One more thing that surprised the boy is that many clan heads also have humanoid creatures like the Lich, Death Knight, Skeleton, all of which have necromancy skills. But, strangely, they were stopped after the hourglass. Suddenly, arcana like healing plants like ginseng, and healing beasts like unicorn, etc. started to show up in the book. Several generations of clan heads possessed healing arcana instead of the dark dot type. As he proceeded to turn the pages, he finally stumbled on the arcana of the Grim Reaper, which has an identical appearance as his arcana. Azrael was stunned as he saw it. After reading its info, he can't help but let out a comment, "Am I the incarnation of the founder or something?" 3 weeks went by. His grandfather never returned. Azrael, who was forbidden to go outside, let alone school, spent his time at home. Because the clinic is closed for a while, a lot of townsmen come to the house and inquire about it. Azrael doesn't have any idea what to explain while the servants are silent as usual. Since his friends from the school are never allowed into the compound, Azrael also began to feel bored after watching a few episodes of cartoons. This is another change he discovered after the awakening. He no longer felt interested in television except for the news channel. So, he started to read books available in the house, in the hopes of finding a way to train his soul card. Unfortunately, none of those books he read have those things. It was only after he asked Ethar to buy a guidebook, he understood that such things aren't permitted to sell outside. They are monopolized by the recognized schools in the cities or the nobles. The only option for a commoner to train is either by hiring an arcana master, learning from her parents, or by attending a recognized school. Azrael then tried his luck, asking their butler, Ethar, who himself is a 6-star arcana master, but he faced with a rejection stating that he wasn't qualified to teach young master. Sigh, do I need to wait just like this? There's only a little over 3 months left till the academy starts. Little Azzy stared outside from the window in boredom, not knowing how to spend his time while missing his grandpa. It was at that time, a voice was heard from downstairs. Azzy. Upon hearing grandfather's voice, Azrael's eyes lit up and he quickly ran downstairs. There are a couple of new faces who were standing with his grandfather. But it wasn't because of that, he was stunned. What made him shocked that all of the white hairs of his grandfather turned black while his body is brimming with vitality. He no longer looked like an old man but a middle-aged person. Grandpa, your hair. As Azrael pointed it out, the latter just laughed, some fortuitous encounter. Don't mind it. Do you miss your grandpa? Just as he raised his arms, intending to hug his grandson, who ran towards him, one of his arms was suddenly grabbed by the lady and muttered in a cold tone, "Don't you dare, father. Remember your position." Upon hearing her words, his expression dimmed and he put down his hands, making Azrael stop and stare at the lady in a suit who stood beside him and addressed his grandpa as her father and even belittled him a little bit. Staring back at him, she bowed like a servant. Avia of the Night Clan greets the young master. The man on the left of his grandpa also did the same. Aspen of the Night Clan greets the young master. Night Clan of the Fryless Nation, it was mentioned in the Book of Death. They are one of the subordinate clans of the noble Garcia family, and are a key figure in the Death Clan. Azrael greeted in response, getting the hang of everything. Hello, nice to meet you. But, the lack of respect is evident in his greeting while maintaining a frown on his face. Both of them didn't mind it and stayed silent and let Oakley talk. I need to tell you something. Oakley stopped all of a sudden and then let out a deep sigh. You are leaving with them, right now? Huh? Where? The boy asked in confusion, despite feeling something wrong inside of his heart from the moment he heard his grandpa was addressed as a father by a member of the Night Clan. Everything will be explained by those two on the way, Oakley replied while looking elsewhere, holding back his emotions. As Azrael turned his head towards those two, meanwhile, Ethar suddenly appeared beside him as the old man called out his name. Did you prepare everything I asked? Oakley said to Ethar. The servant took out a storage card and handed it to him. Azrael was surprised upon seeing this card. Unlike the other storage cards, this one is gold in color, which indicates the portable storage room inside of it is at least 100 square m in area and 5 meters in height. Closing his eyes, Oakley then concentrated on the items that were placed inside of it. Nodding with satisfaction, he then handed it to the boy. This has everything that you need. As Azrael took it, he felt like this might be a sudden goodbye. He looked at his grandpa and asked, Are you not going with me? At that moment, Oakley saw the sadness in the boy's eyes despite his words doesn't carry a shred of emotion. Looking at the grandson he raised for the past 8 years, he sighed again. No. Young master, we're leaving. The lady spoke before leading him into a car. If it was Azrael before the awakening, he might have cried for his grandpa, but now, as the vehicle started to drive, he wasn't able to express such a thing and simply stared at his grandpa, who let out a deep sigh once again. Chapter 4 Entering the Clan Compound. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Somewhere in the mountains of Hellenis Range, a helicopter landed on flat ground. Little Azzy and the 2 members of the Night Clan stepped down from the helicopter. Stepping down on the ground, the boys saw a couple of middle-aged men, waiting for them. Is this him? One of them asked the lady for confirmation. As the lady nodded, the 2 of them bowed to the boy. Welcome home, young master. Azzy, who was explained on the way, calmly nodded before following them. Even though he was able to understand the situation the moment the lady addressed his grandpa as her father and then, she introduced herself as one of the members of the Night Clan, but still, it pained him a little bit, knowing that his only relative that was alive isn't actually his. And the actual relative isn't interested to care about his well-being. His grandpa was nothing more than a caretaker his late parents entrusted him to, before they went on a journey to the cursed Forest of Death, which is located in Arcana World, and got themselves killed by a monster. When he asked for what reason they have to go on a dangerous journey, leaving behind their newborn child, Avia and Aspen went silent, not intending to answer. Azzy has other doubts like why his parents trusted someone who was exiled from the clan rather than someone inside, when the clan head, his great-great-great-grandfather is still alive. And why no one thought of picking him up until his soul card is revealed. A clever kid like Azzy realized that he wouldn't get his answer from the 2 of them. So, he didn't bother to ask further and just concentrated on the items his grandpa prepared for him in the storage card. Back to the present, Azzy looked around. There's no trace of the so-called clan village. All he was able to see were the clouds in the sky and a small lake before him. Remembering that the Death Clan is one of the hidden clans, he thought the village must be hidden somewhere. Let's get going. Upon hearing the tone of Avia, the 2 elders nodded and walked for 100 meters before reaching the lake. Is the village located under the lake or something? Azzy muttered under his breath. As powerful Arcana masters, they were able to hear his words clearly, and Aspen Knight answered him, No, it isn't, young master. Our clan doesn't exist in this world. Ha! Azzy turned his head to look at him in confusion. Right then, one of the elders took out a mysterious card and thrust it as if he was stabbing someone with it. It began to glow. Then, he turned it counter-clockwise until the card is horizontal. All of a sudden, a massive door appeared out of nowhere, engraved with several complicated ancient runes and symbols. As the card on the elder's hand disappeared, the door opened to reveal the clan village. As he widened his eyes, looking at the view before him. "Are you surprised?" asked Aspen. As he replied, "When you say the clan village, I didn't expect it to be this big." That's right, unlike what he expected, it looked too big for a village. 2 years ago, when Azzy went on a school trip, he saw his town from the edge of a cliff. But, now, the place before him looked more than 100 times bigger than his town. How this is called a village? It must be called a province. There are lakes around everywhere. Forests can be seen. The architecture of the buildings looked ancient, just like those tourist attractions. Well, the clan is said to have existed for 100,000 years. So, I guess it's normal. As he thought before he realized it was impossible such a big place coexisted with these chilling mountains. He asked the lady beside him, "Ms. Knight, is this some kind of bigger version of a storage room?" While his words might sound a bit rude, everyone quickly understood that the boy doesn't exactly mean that, but he doesn't have any other words to describe it. She replied, "Not exactly. This is a pocket world. You can say this is a mini version of Arcana World, where all of our clans live. The only difference other than space, this one needs a key to enter." As he didn't ask further, as he knew he will learn it eventually. Using a gold-grade flying card that was able to carry even 50 people, they took off from the cliff and traveled to the compound that's located right in the middle of the world. As the flying card is descending, Azzy saw there are a lot of kids, standing on the side with their parents. Meanwhile, 4 more old men stood together to welcome him. "Greetings, young master." All 4 of them greeted him with a bow. As Azzy returned their greeting with a nod, one of them pointed his hand towards the road, "Follow us. The clan head is awaiting your presence." The 2 elders who accompanied them joined the 4 of them who followed the trio. Those 4 are the elders of Indigo, Green, Blue, and Orange Pavilion respectively, Aspen whispered into Azzy's ears, inputting him the information before he even asked. Azzy turned his head towards him, and asked, "On our way, you said the elders of Red and Yellow Pavilion will pick us up at the mountain. Then, there must be a Violet Pavilion, right?" As he heard of certain colors, Azzy quickly realized they divided the parts according to the spectrum, which he just learned the names of them, a couple of months ago. Aspen nodded, "It's the strongest pavilion. All the members of the Violet Pavilion are elites. But the elder is missing here," Azzy commented, wondering whether the elder of Violet Pavilion has the higher authority or maybe, he was busy. "The elder is right here," Aspen slowly whispered, pointing to the lady beside him. Azzy stopped in his tracks for a second. "Ms. Avia is the elder of the Violet Pavilion." "Shoo. Here in the clan village, you should address her as the elder. She's also the head of the discipline hall. So, everyone is afraid of her." Aspen whispered once again, making Avia twitching her eyebrows. "Wow, she must be very strong, I guess." Inwardly, even though Azzy was amazed, but on the outside, he appeared rather indifferent. So, everyone who was keeping an eye on him misunderstood that their young master is mentally strong, and became impressed. "Then, what about you, Mr. Aspen?" asked Azzy, feeling that this man must also be someone important to walk with the elders. "He isn't that important. Don't need to care." All of a sudden, Avia replied in her usual cold tone, making his face darken. "I'm the next head of the Night Clan, sister." A small growl escaped Aspen in response. As he felt this was the first time, he saw a mixture of frustration and rage in this man's words from the moment they picked him at his house. It led him to believe that it's not that these fellow clan members are devoid of emotion. They just suppress it for some reason. This realization made him sigh in relief as he thought he will lose all the emotions, later, training with people like them. After all, he was experiencing the changes inside of him from the moment of awakening. A few things like not being able to show a smile despite feeling happy inside. Not being able to cry despite feeling sadness because of missing his grandpa, etc. Not being able to express his emotions like before made him despair a little bit, but after looking at this one moment, hope generated in his heart once again. We are here. Avia ignored Aspen and spoke as they reached a house that looked like a large palace from ancient times. Clan. Head everyone except Azzy kneeled on one leg as they reached the middle of a dim lit hall, where Azzy wasn't able to even see the person, who was sitting on a throne, at the other end of the hall. Thud thud asterisk footsteps were heard from the front and revealed a thin old man with a long beard that's even touching the ground. His eyes were barely open. He walked slowly as if there's no energy left in him. One look at him, anyone will think that he was a sickly old man who was near his death door. No one would believe this ancestor is a peak 9-star arcana master with nearly 9 billion soul power. He is a mighty figure that almost touched immortal/demigod's realm, just short of another billion soul power. As he stopped a meter before the boy, as he stared back at this ancestor of the Garcia family and bowed, "Greetings, ancestor." He didn't greet him as the clan. Head like others, indicating that he won't recognize himself as a part of the Death Clan. At least, not yet. And just as he expected from the head of the Death Clan, the first thing the ancestor said, the moment he met his direct relative is, "Show me the Death Scythe and the Hourglass." Chapter 5 Successive Breakthroughs. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. As soon as the words escaped from his mouth, the elders were stuck on the ground. Following the request/order of the old man, who lived for nearly 8,000 years, as he summoned the weapons of his arcana. Just like his grandpa, this ancestor's attention was stolen by the hourglass, which might seem rather ordinary but truly a terrifying item. His eyes widened in response. What Oakley mentioned is true after all. The sands of time once again emerged within the clan after my younger brother. Then, his attention turned towards the scythe and with one look, he inspected it and gave a nod of appreciation. That is indeed a death scythe. All of a sudden, a frown appeared on his face, causing a panic among the elders who are still kneeling. "Tell me, boy, what's your arcana?" Even though he only spoke in a whisper, the voice reverberated in everyone's ears and the elders felt a huge pressure on them, once again. The power of a 9-star master is something not to be trifled with. Meanwhile, because his soul power is too low, Azzy didn't feel its effects and he humbly took out his soul card and handed it to the ancestor instead of telling it. Taken aback by his descendants' actions, the ancestor still took the soul card. Once his eyes laid on the picture on the soul card, a small laugh escaped from him. The elders felt a huge pressure once again. Ha ha ha. Finally, the founder has blessed us. Meanwhile, the ancestor's laugh increased its intensity, and this time, the pressure was felt across the surroundings. While the people with low soul power didn't feel the effect, the elites with high soul power, especially the members of Violet Pavilion, faced extreme pressure on them, which forced them to kneel on the floor. On the other hand, the elders who were kneeling before the clan head thought whether this old man finally went crazy or something. But then, again, for several generations, since the clan heirs are only awakening a healing type, the appearance of Azrael is indeed a blessing for the Garcia family. What they don't know is that the clan head is happy because of the image of Grim Reaper on the card. While the Death Scythe and Hourglass are something that was repeated throughout the time, the Reaper never appeared in the clan for 100,000 years. "Boy, your parents did a good job, naming you after the founder," the old man commented while returning it to him. "Avia Knight, you may stand up." "Yes." Suddenly, the young elder of the Violet Pavilion felt the pressure disappeared around her. As she stood up, the clan head spoke, "I'm leaving my successor in your hands." But, there are other candidates. Deciding like that. She suddenly stopped as she saw a frown on the old man, and she became stifled for a few seconds before she bowed. Yes, I'll try my best to groom him as the next clan head. Now, that's the way it should be. He bared his teeth as if he was happy. Then, he turned his head towards Azrael and spoke, "Before you leave, let me give you a piece of simple advice. Strength and authority are like the different sides of the same coin. In the eyes of the world, neither will be worth much without the other. Never forget it." "Yes, I will remember it," Azzy replied while giving him a deep bow. "All of you may leave." The old man then returned to the darkness and sat on his throne. Meanwhile, the remaining elders stood up after the pressure disappeared and left the palace while Avia brought him to his room that was prepared long ago. Even for a person who enjoyed being rich in his grandpa's house, the new room overwhelmed him, although on the surface he displayed no such expression. It is not that he doesn't want to, but he wasn't able to. Rest for today. Your lessons will start in the morning. She went back to her aloof self, looking high and mighty. After she left the room, Azzy looked at the maids. "I need to be alone for some time." Sigh. Even if I'm an understanding person, why no one cared to ask my opinion? These adults are really unfair. Little Azzy collapsed on the bed, resigning to his fate. A few moments later, the surroundings around him once again turned dark and he found himself at the same place as during awakening. Once again, down below the cliff, the entire land is filled with countless amount corpses while the black lightning still raining onto them. At the edge of the cliff, floating in the air, the giant reaper once again appeared before him. This time, Azzy didn't feel scared. On the contrary, he somehow felt a kinship with it, maybe because of the bond they have, because of the soul card. "Hello." Azzy greeted it with a bow, not knowing what to call it. The reaper, who understood his thoughts, right away, answered, "I'm called Kronos, and I'm also called the Grim Reaper. I'm the personification of time and the reaper of death." Azzy was taken aback after realizing that it wasn't simply some specter he was talking to. It was none other than a deity, who was standing before him. Azzy stayed silent and let it talk. The reaper continued, "Child of the Death Clan, this is but a simple part of my power that I'm bestowing upon you. How you utilize it, is upon you. Goodbye." After saying the words, the world crumbled around him. Meanwhile, on the outside, Azzy was floating in the air while he was still asleep. A dark aura enveloped him along with the soul card that's hovering around him without his permission. Before him, an old man stood there in silence. He was neither the clan head nor he is one of the elders. He's nothing but a tomb keeper of the clan. But, right now, he is in the palace, staring at the boy as he was going through the baptism/purification. Every arcana master goes through it once in their lives when they were acknowledged by their arcana. The later the acknowledgement, the less her potential. Although there are geniuses around the world who went through baptism within a week, still 3 weeks are also considered good. Slowly, the number on the soul card increased and it changed to pale yellow, indicating he breakthrough and became a 1-star arcana master. But, it didn't stop there. Slowly, the pale yellow turned to bright yellow and further deepened as his soul power rose rapidly before it changed to pale green in color and stopped. The dark aura was gone and Azzy slowly landed on the bed. Looking at the sleeping figure, the old man mumbled, "This is the first time I'm seeing the purification ceremony to bring such an extraordinary result. Interesting." Azzy didn't wake up for several hours, skipping dinner. In the early morning, he finally woke up from his sleep with a yawn and was taken aback to see unfamiliar surroundings. "Ah. That's right. I'm at the clan compound, right now." He sprung up from his bed and stretched his body to go to the bathroom, first. As he walked a couple of steps, Azzy then felt something different in his body, a pleasant feeling as if his soul was drastically strengthened, overnight. Finishing his activities, Azzy sat on his bed in a meditative position and concentrated on the changes inside his body. Somewhere in the middle of the chest, the soul power which is as tiny as a flame on the candle now appeared as big as a football. This. Did I break through, last night? As he mumbled, experiencing a shock as he summoned his soul card. Instead of white, now his soul card changed its color to pale green while the number on the top left edge of the card changed to 105. Soul power 105. His eyes widened and rubbed his eyes, not believing whether it's really true. Pinching his cheek once again, as he saw the number same, as he became excited. I'm a 2-star Arcana Master. Wait a second. What about soul skills? Every time an Arcana Master break through the ranks, she will receive a soul skill, but little Azzy, who doesn't have any prior education about it, didn't know how he would get his soul skill. After all, it is different from games where a player would automatically receive a skill as soon as he crossed the level. Suddenly, something lit up in his mind, and he quickly searched his pockets to took the storage card and took out the Book of Death from it. Knock knock *. Someone knocked on the door at that moment. As he quickly put the book back into the storage card and answered, yes. Please, come in. Chapter 6 First Day of Training. Reset. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Young Master Garcia, follow me to the Violet Pavilion, right now. Avia directly gave a command without any pleasantries of exchanging good morning greetings. 2-star. As her eyes laid on his figure, she was taken aback at first to see this successor that was dumped onto her, already made a breakthrough, not just once but twice. Ever her, who was regarded as one of the greatest geniuses of the clan, who got acknowledged by her arcana within 2 days after her awakening, still only made a breakthrough once and the progress stopped after her soul power reached 60. But, the kid before him, has a raise of more than 90 at the very least because of baptism, even though his arrived way later than hers. Quickly, she calmed herself and turned around to walk away as a gesture to follow her without any questions. As he sprung up from the bed and do it as she said. Instead of traveling on a flying card, Azzy was forced to walk all the way to the Violet Pavilion, which is located at least 5 miles away from the house. For a normal adult, 5 miles might not be a big deal, but for a kid who's barely 8 years old with no prior experience of physical training, it's definitely tough even if he's a 2-star Arcana Master. After walking for a while, he wanted to ask whether they can fly to the pavilion, but watching the respectful greetings his clansmen were giving him, Azzy thought she might want to let him see this. Alas, he misunderstood. She was just in a bad mood because of a fight that's happened at her house with her uncle, the Night Clan's head. When she found out that this kid's arcana was more potential than hers, her mood became worse, and took out him, in this way. After all, she is now the master of Azrael. She has the right to teach him however she wants. The only thing that relieved her mood is his face. It kept reminding her of someone she used to know when she was young. Meanwhile, little Azzy followed her, despite feeling pain in his legs, and sweating all over the body, even though the sun is just up and the temperature is moderate. We are here, Avia spoke as they reached the entrance of the pavilion. Phew, wiping off his sweat, he raised his head only to see hundreds of steps that were leading to the top of a cliff, with each one at least 1 meter big. Despair fell onto him. Physical strength is the foundation for everything. Your training starts, right here. The first step is to climb the stairs to reach the top of the cliff, where our pavilion is located. We'll move on to the next step, the moment you reach the top. Until then, you will temper your body. Upon hearing her words, Azzy became confused a little bit and stared at the stairs. Tempering my body with climbing these stairs. You are wondering, what's so special about climbing these stairs, aren't you? Avia spoke as she looked at the top. Azzy wants to say he's not thinking about that, but he just went silent and let her explain its specialty. There are a total of 365 steps, representing the number of days in a year. Just like months, each set of steps represents a month. You start with the first month. When you step onto the second month, the gravity will be increased by twice. For the third month, it will be increased by 2 more times of the original once again. By the time you reach the last 31 steps, the gravity will be increased by 22 times. And at the top of the cliff, it'll increase 2 folds that of the gravity that presents on the last step. 44 times, Azzy muttered under his breath as he stared at the stairs thoughtfully. Avia nodded, yes. The clan head has given me the responsibility of grooming you as the successor. My methods aren't easy for a kid like you, who lived his life in greenery until now. If you want, you can always choose the easy way of convincing the clan head to choose another master. In my view, he's fond of you, very much. He won't say no if you request something. I'm giving you 2 choices. Persist and become strong by following me, or take the easy route and return to the home. I'll take it that you are ready if you can meet me at the top of the stairs. However, there's one condition. You shouldn't use any external assistance. I'll be monitoring you from the top, every day. Since the moment he met her, Azzy felt it was the first time she talked this long. However, he felt that all of this was unnecessary as he already made the choice the moment he stepped inside that car without any resistance. Without waiting any longer, he stepped onto the first step, surprising her a little bit. Giving a nod, she disappeared from the spot and reappeared at the top of the stairs in an instant, using her teleportation ability. Meanwhile, Azzy climbed the first 31 steps with ease, despite feeling pain in his leg as he didn't take any rest on the way. But, as soon as he stepped on the 32nd step, just like she mentioned earlier, he felt his body became heavier and immediately collapsed on his knees on the spot. He gritted his teeth and stood up before taking the next step. It isn't that easy to climb these stairs, kid, Avia shook her head, observing him from the top. Junior sister, is that him? The direct descendant. Suddenly, a voice was heard from the right side. Avia nodded without turning towards the voice, yes. If nothing unexpected happens, then, he'll be our future clan head, too. So, it's true then. I thought it was just a rumor created by the other pavilions. A burly man who looks like he is in his late 30s commented, folding his arms to the chest. Aren't you being a little harsh on him? He's going to faint at any time. Why the concern for a person who you really wish to die? Avia suddenly commented, taking him by surprise. As the man was stupefied a little bit, Avia turned her head and stared into his eyes coldly and said, I heard that 5 of your clans are having a constant meeting with each other, leaving our Night Clan and the Silver Clan out of it. Thinking of starting a coup, now, are we? The clan head is stronger than the whole clan. Even if all of us fight against him, everyone would be crushed. The man replied before turning away. It would be a lot easier to believe your words if you have at least denied my words. Your actions show that you are indeed thinking of it, Avia thought, looking at his back with a frown on her face. BL.net Meanwhile, Azzy made it past the second month of 28 steps and stepped on to the 60th step, where the gravitational force is now 4 times that of the normal. He fainted right away as it became too much for him. Upon watching it, Avia teleported to where he was and picked him up on her shoulders before she took him to his room. Placing him on his bed, she shook her head, this kid even forgot to use soul power to power himself up. What she has forgotten is that he only received the training of using the soul power for applying healing card, recovery cards, etc., that were crafted by his grandpa. He doesn't know how to use soul power on his body at all. A couple of hours later, Azzy woke up from the unconscious state and finds himself in his room. Just then, he witnessed a strange incident. His hourglass was floating in the air while the white sand is pouring downwards. As he tried to grab it with his hand, all of a sudden, it disappeared on its own and the door was tightly closed. The bright lit room turned dim while he felt all of his energy drained from his body as if his soul power is emptied. The Book of Death that was supposed to be in his storage card suddenly appeared before him. As Azzy looked at the book in confusion, all of a sudden, the door was knocked on twice. Chapter 7 Resetting the Day, Again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Knock knock asterisk Azzy puts the Book of Death away in his storage card and answers, yes. Please, come in. The door was opened and Azzy saw his master, who entered the room and spoke, young Master Garcia, follow me to the Violet Pavilion, right now. Ha! Azzy was surprised, upon hearing her words. Didn't we just? Azzy became silent and looked around him again. Am I experiencing some kind of déjà vu? Just, what? Asked Avia with a frown. Azzy shook his head, nothing. Just give me a second. He instantly took out a 2-star soul recovery card from his storage card and applied it to himself to recover 100 soul power in his body. He stepped down from the bed and followed her as she leads the way by walking. He followed her along the way while panting as he went out of breath by the time they reached the stairs that lead to the pavilion. Physical strength is the foundation to everything. Your training starts right here. The first is to. As Avia was ready to give him a long explanation, starting with these steps, Azzy interrupted, climb the stairs to reach the top of the cliff. We'll move on to the next step once I reach the top. Until then, I'll temper my body. Avia looked at him in surprise as this successor that was dumped onto her, told the words that were still in her throat. But, she didn't want to show that. So, she quickly controlled her expression. Still, that didn't get in the way of her praising, yes, exactly. You are a smart kid as my father mentioned to me. Upon hearing different words from her this time, Azzy tested something as he stared at the stairs. I feel like there's something special about these steps. Yes. There are 365 steps here, each of them representing a day of the year. BVEC. As she proceeds with the explanation, Azzy thought, what's happening? This can't be déjà vu. It's too long for such a thing. Did I dream about the future or something? Wait a second. Then, he suddenly remembers the incident when he woke up after sleeping a couple of hours. The first thing he saw was the hourglass. Clearly, it was doing something on its own accord and then, he lost all of his soul power. I'll give you two choices. Persist. Azzy didn't wait to finish her words and climbed the first step and then the second. Avia was once again surprised and she teleported to the top. Just like before, his legs weren't able to hold after climbing the 32nd step. And once again, he gritted his teeth and forced himself to climb until the 59th step. Phew, looking at the next step, Azzy mumbled, if I remember right, then, this step will have 4 times the gravity and I will collapse. Azzy stopped there and sat down to take a rest and kept staring at the next step as he put his hand on it while thinking of something. Meanwhile, at the top, Avia frowned as she placed her attention on Azzy after sending away the man who was trying to scheme for the next clan head position. What is he doing? Azzy, who was getting the feel of gravity on his hand, mumbled, I can hardly raise my hand. March has 31 days, so, 31 steps ahead of me. Can I last that long in my current condition? Well, if I have a stamina recovery card, it would be quite easy but she won't allow. He remembered her words again and realized the key words, tempering the body, huh. As he stood up and to her surprise, instead of going to the next step, he turned around and walked down the stairs to reach the bottom, and sit aside for a while. 10 minutes later, as she was wondering whether he was trying to rest so that he wants to try again or return, the boy suddenly stood up as if nothing happened and climbed the stairs again at a high speed, this time. His pace slowed down after he reached the second level but he didn't stop even while panting heavily and feeling extreme pain in his legs until he reached the 59th step. But, then, all of a sudden, Azzy once again turned around and walked down the stairs, wiping off his sweat. I see. It seems this boy figured out quickly. Even for me, it took a whole hour to realize it. Avia let out a comment in a small tone. 5 hours later, heavily panting Azrael sat down on the ground at the bottom of the stairs while nodding to the greetings given by some of the masters at the pavilion who knew his identity. Meanwhile, most of the disciples of the Violet Pavilion ignored him while some of them tried to advise him not to be reckless. Of course, there are a couple of disciples who sneered at him, not knowing his identity. But, at the very next second, they found a whip made of dark energy, extended all the way from the top, hit them. As a result, they were seen flying for more than 100 meters before crashing onto the ground. After seeing that, no disciple even dared to try to make fun of the situation. Okay, let's stop. Go and take a rest for the day. Tomorrow, sharp 5 a.m. Avia's voice whispered in his ears, even though she is nowhere near him. Thinking that she might have other things to do, Azzy turned around and walked to his home. Since it's pretty much the straight road, she didn't escort him. After reaching the Garcia main family residence, a servant escorted him to his room. Freshening himself up, Azzy was led to the dining hall for lunch, although on the table with at least 50 seats on either side, only Azzy was the one to sit and eat. He missed his grandpa a little bit as he remembered they always eat their lunch and dinner together. But, since he can't do anything about his current situation, he pushed such thoughts away. Returning to his room, he sends the servants away and then, closed the door before sitting on the bed and recalled the earlier events. Then, he took out the Book of Death and searched for the pages that have the information on the hourglass. Here it is. The hourglass contains an element known as the sands of time, which can reverse the time. Reversing the time. Then, that means. He drifted off a little bit as he remembered the scene earlier today. The boy continued. Oh, it looks like there are quite a few members who own such an arcana. The last one to own is Rigel Garcia. Who is he? I don't think I remembered seeing his name in the list of past clan heads. Might be a sibling or from a branch family. Anyway, what else is there? Oh. Soul skills. The first soul skill is the time. Stop. For how long? It didn't say anything. I guess it depends on the user. The second soul skill is the time reverse. I'm a 2. So, did I unknowingly use the second soul skill while I was unconscious? As he shook his head in denial, no, it's not possible. Even if I was able to use that, these abilities affect the target, not the entire world. Maybe, my soul skill is different. After all, in my case, it isn't arcana but a weapon wielded by my arcana. So, there's a difference. Maybe, my soul skill is to get a glimpse at the future. All of a sudden, something clicked in his mind, and he stopped reading the details and turned the pages until it landed on the Reaper. This is it. I think it's the time for me to understand my soul skills, if now, at least their names and their effects. After a while, Azzy closed the book and summoned the hourglass from the soul card. An hourglass that's filled with white sand in one of the glass bulbs. How to use this? He turned it upside down, and wondered, like this. Just as he did that, the sand started to fall into the other glass, but at the same time, Azzy felt his hand also stuck with it. He can't move it either until all of the sand falls into the other glass bulb. It took him more than 30 seconds to complete the task. Azzy saw his surroundings changed, once again. He found himself at the 44th step of the stairs that lead to the Violet Pavilion, and his soul power was emptied once again, making him too weak to stand on a place where gravity is 2 times the original. What the? Avia took a step back in surprise as just for a moment, she saw an hourglass appeared in the boy's hands along with the soul card that hovered around him before both of them disappeared, leaving Azzy in a pitiful state. Chapter 8 Understanding the Power of Hourglass. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. For a while, Azzy didn't move and just concentrates on taking rest to recover his soul power in a natural way. But, he didn't expect Avia to capture every moment very clearly. Tell me. What just happened, right now? A voice was heard from behind, making him jump on his feet. As his eyes met her eyes, he felt like he was naked with everything exposed to her, including the secrets he was hiding. Just now, I have seen you summon the soul card and the hourglass, and now, I see, your soul power is exhausted. Moreover, I remember making myself clear that you should. Oh. I didn't. Only then did she realize she forgot to mention it to him. As he climbed the stairs before her words finished. So, they never escaped her throat. Okay, if you want to reach the top and go to the next step of training, then, you should forbid yourself by using to rely on other things, including your arcana. That's how you temper the body. As he silently nodded, gesturing he understood and sat in a meditative position to recover his soul power along with analyzing what just happened to him. So, my hourglass can reverse the time, just as it was mentioned in the Book of Death, but how much time is it? He then did realize he left the watch in his room, so, he turned towards the sky to look at the position of the sun. Previously, I woke up by noon and the sun doesn't seem like it's at the head. But, I also have to consider how long I was. I need to use the skill a few more times to confirm. Meanwhile, Avia, who teleported back to the top, wondered whether the kid was tired as she saw him, glancing at the sun. A few hours later, sitting inside his room, as he equipped the watch and looked at the time before summoned the hourglass again and turned it upside down. As he found himself on the 38th step this time. And the first thing he did is to look at his watch. 1:12 p.m. Glancing at the sun, as he thought, so, the things that traveled through time with me don't change. Okay, I learned something new. Young Master Garcia, what are you doing? I saw. Before she was about to lecture him again, he interrupted by apologizing, I'm sorry. I just thought using soul power would help me somehow. I'll not try to use arcana, again. As Avia realized she hasn't instructed about it, she replied, if you want to use soul power, then, you should spread it all over the body or at least legs to face off against the gravity. Upon hearing a piece of advice, which he hadn't got for the past 3 times, as he became excited inwardly and asked her for further advice on how to do that. But, she didn't explain to him the details and teleported back to the top. After she left, as he returned to the bottom of the stairs to recover his soul power with a recovery card before stepping onto the stairs once again. 3 hours later, as he returned to the house for lunch and take a break for the rest of the day. Going back to the time, again and again, while constantly tempering his body for several hours, exhausted his mind, so, he decides to use the skill after a few hours. Until the time of the dinner, as he did nothing but hold himself up in the room. He refused to meet other elders or the clan leaders with an excuse of being tired. Looking at the wall clock, as he mumbled as he summoned the hourglass, okay, it's now 8 p.m. He turned the hourglass upside down once again and started the stopwatch at the same time. The white sand started to fall in the other glass bulb while his right arm is being frozen. Once his arm became free and his soul power emptied out, the surroundings didn't change anything this time except that there's sunlight passing through the ventilation and illuminating the room, instead of electricity. Another change is that the time on the wall clock changed to 4:15 p.m. He glanced at the stopwatch and 35 seconds passed. So, let's write what I discovered. He took out one of his school notes and started to write in it. First, it takes around 33.35 seconds to launch the skill. Second, either its soul power consumption is huge or it generally takes all of the soul power and the time would probably depend on it. More research is needed. Third, I can at least turn back the time for nearly 4 hours, not for the target like the usual hourglass but the entire world. Well, it seems like my arcana has its disadvantages when comparing to the normal hourglass. For one, my soul skills are divided into 2 of them. I can't use time stop until I reach 4. On the other hand, other users can use it when they become 1. And I can't also stay at the same place I used the skill. I will be teleported to the place I was supposed to be. It's like I'm erasing the timeline between the destination point and present. But, the advantage is that my powers will affect the entire world and, no one can resist. Despite being stronger than me by many ranks, Ms. Avia didn't even realize it. If I can control the hourglass, then, I might do wonders. 3 years later, Violet Pavilion, the Death Clan, at the top of the stairs, Avia was folding her hands to the chest and continued to stare downwards. Beside her, stood the heir of the Crescent clan, Greeter Crescent, who is also a descendant of the Garcia family. What a shame! He sighed while shaking his head. He is also one of the prime candidates to be the next leader of the Death Clan until Azzy showed up. Everyone reveres this 6-star Arcana master with his talent second only to Avia, despite always losing to her. 3 years ago, when Azzy came to the clan village, everyone immediately discarded the thoughts of making Greeter the clan head because no matter how much of a genius one is, a collateral descendant was lost in the status to a direct descendant from the moment they are born. And only a clan head can scrape off this rule. He was taught that from the moment he was born, pointing at Azzy's parents. But after the demise of them in the cursed forest of death, he was brought into the limelight, which turned into darkness once again after he heard there is a direct descendant. Because of the presence of the old monster inside the village, he never thought of harming this boy that's standing in his way. The secret clan meetings were stopped. Even his own father doesn't dare to support him. So, he started to accept missions more frequently to not only keep himself from getting frustrated but also to increase his influence outside, to take care of Azzy when he leaves the clan at the age of 15 to study and graduate at the Fryles Academy of Arcana, which is the best academy in the country, and top 3 in the continent. But, after 2 years passed, the elders and the clan leaders started to reorganize their thoughts about Azzy, who still looked like he was struggling on the stairs. Chapter 9 Training at the Violet Pavilion Part. 1 You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Thinking Azrael might not have the potential to replace the ancestor when he dies, they asked Greeter to return, and once again, secret clan meetings started in the past year that excludes the Night and Silver clans. Senior sister, I don't understand why you still want to waste your time on this kid. I don't see any potential in him. How about letting him live in peace? Your training is only becoming nothing but torture for him for the past 3 years. Greeter spoke as if he was sympathizing with the boy. Avia replied in her usual cold tone while still observing her disciple, why don't you get back to your training and try to break through 7-star, instead of wasting your time with scheming with those fellow clan heads and partying with girls outside. Oh. By the way, Evelyn sent a message. If Evelyn hears it, you'll be beaten to a pulp. Upon hearing the word Evelyn, his body shivered for a second and asked as he gulped, when is she returning? Avia answered, tomorrow, perhaps. I see. I just remembered that I have something important to do. Then, I will not disturb you any longer. Excuse me. Greeter quickly left the pavilion on a flying card to his clan in a hurry. Not paying attention to him, Avia continues to observe Azzy, who was meditating on the 304th step. The strange thing is that he absolutely has no sweat or so whatever. 30 minutes later, suddenly, the soul card and hourglass appeared beside him. Still, there was no exhaustion on his face with half of his soul power remaining. It's time. Avia, who was used to this kind of scene for the past 3 years, mumbled, did he reverse the time once again? A genius like her long figured out the ability, but she didn't confront him about it and let him use it as much as he wants, following her grandfather's orders. Meanwhile, Azzy, who turned back the time, stood up on his feet. The energy particles of his soul power slowly flowed through the veins and later, a faint aura enveloped his body. Azzy then stepped on the 305th step, where the gravity is now 20 times the original. He neither collapsed on the knees nor did he struggle to climb another step. Looking at the scene, a rare smile appeared on Avia, even though it disappeared after a second. Yesterday, it was imperfect. Now, it looks complete. Is the kid finally decided to finish it? Azzy easily passed the steps of November and didn't stop even after landing on the steps of December. As he was going against gravity, the ball of light that was containing soul power slowly but steadily expanding its size. Meanwhile, the numbers on the soul card that's inside of him slowly started to change. 991, 992, 993, 994, 995. And he took the final step onto the Violet Pavilion, where his master stood there like a statue for several hours. But, just then, the gravity increased to 44 times all of a sudden, and a huge pressure dawned upon him. He used all of his remaining soul power to force himself to stand before her properly and said, "I finished the first step of tempering my body." Avia nodded in satisfaction, "Good job. But, it is still incomplete. Now, until you get comfortable with the environment over here, you shall live here. During this time, I will teach you the basics, theoretical classes. Follow me." Then, she took out a card that's made of emerald and placed it on his forehead. As the energy flowed through his body, as he felt the gravity around him disappeared. It's an anti-gravity card to lighten your body and enhance your speed for 12 hours. This one lightens your body by 50 times. She explained to him before he asked her. And no, you can't buy it. It can only be earned through mission points. I'm not curious about it, although feels like it must be expensive, as he thought as he followed her. Then, he asked about the mission points. It is only for those above 18. You are still too early for that. All he got a nonsensical reply from her. It's a rule since ancient times, Avia spoke once again as if she read his mind. As he kept silent and didn't refute her statement even though he never thought as she imagined. As he observed the pavilion, which is as big as a normal village with several training grounds and halls. Except for 2 to 3 people, he hardly saw anyone walking around. When asked, Avia answered that the rest of the disciples are either busy at the training grounds or the missions, outside the clan village. As he didn't reset the time again and took a rest for the whole day. The next day morning, as he woke up from his sleep, he felt light for some reason even though the effects of the card must have disappeared a few hours ago. Did she use that card on me, again? Beno Eldem Hall of Elders, Violet Pavilion, as he took a seat in the office of Avia. She started her theoretical class with Death Clan. As he knows all the history of the Death Clan, how it formed, he didn't pay much attention to it. Even though Avia realized it, but she didn't stop the lesson. So, the clans of Night, Silver, Crescent, Blood, Smoke, and Ash are the 6 subordinate clans of the Garcia family. All of them collectively together are called the Death Clan. Our Night Clan is basically the clan of assassins. Most of our clan members have daggers as their arcana. As she said that, twin daggers were summoned in her hands to show him. Then, the Silver Clan. The members usually have some metal tools or beasts as their arcana. Those who awaken metal beasts are regarded highly in the clan. Crescent Clan is also generated from the founder through one of his 3 concubines. So, they are considered intermediate nobles, a position slightly above Night and Silver clans. As he then asked, what about their arcana? Avia shrugged her shoulders, well, their arcana aren't that special. It's normal. Because of having marriages with several other clan members, it became mixed, although powerful. Our Night Clan considers them impure. As he was stunned, does that mean the marriages in the Night Clan happen within the clan to maintain purity? He thought whether they are insane. Who in the world would follow such customs at present times? No. Avia shook her head, we marry people from the outside world. Our partners are often people with less background, mostly mortals. It's because our DNA is far stronger, the next generation will normally inherit our traits and talent. That's how we preserve our bloodline. We aren't allowed to fall in love with a powerful bloodline. Those who marry such individuals will be exiled from the clan. My father ran away with a noble family of the nation of Sneeka. Then, what if a child inherits the weaker kind? Despite knowing the answer in his mind, he still asked her. But, he didn't expect her's answer to be different from his imagination. She shrugged her shoulders, nothing. They can either stay here to become servants or their family can move out to the outside world. Honestly, even if the child is a genius, the clan won't provide resources to him unless she has the potential to become an assassin. Their fate is either to marry into other clans and join them or work at our branches that were located all over the continent. Luckily for me. She then summoned a whip and continued, I also awakened the twin daggers as my second arcana, or else, I wouldn't be in this position. While she was trying to explain that she was indeed lucky, on the other hand, 11-year-old Azzy was stunned as he realized she is a twin arcana user. Chapter 10 Training at Violet Pavilion Part. 2 You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Are you a twin arcana user? Azzy asked while thinking that his master is indeed amazing as everyone says. He also got a bit disappointed after realizing that he didn't even care to learn about her powers. Avia nodded to his question, yes. She unsummoned the twin daggers into the soul card that was hovering around her, and then, summoned a second soul card and took out a dark whip. Its handle has a small metal skull on the bottom while the lengthy cord was covered in spikes. As Azzy looked at the skull, he saw its eyes are glowing in red for a second before disappearing as if it was blinking. This is Hope's ebon whip that I inherited from my mother's family. I call it Nightglow. I can hit my enemies even if they are a mile away. And during the dark times, its power will multiply. Azzy then remembered the times when some disciples were hit by the dark energy that looked like a whip when they tried to insult him during the times he was unknown to the clan. More than the successor of the Garcia family, Azzy felt that they respected him more because of the protection by Avia Knight. But, right now, he also felt that she was unnecessarily bragging to him but maintaining his character. He never pointed it out and kept silent as usual. Avia continued, I should be thankful that I awakened our Night clan's treasured Night Fangs or else, I would have been. She suddenly stopped and then said, anyway, let's get back to the topic. Now, where are we? Azzy answered, Crescent Clan is over. Ah. That's right. The next is the Blood Clan. They are the complete opposite of us. If our clan never marries a powerful bloodline to preserve our bloodline, they are the ones who never marry outsiders to maintain their purity. Cousins are often engaged upon their birth and marry each other, in the rare case, siblings. That's why they are two less in number. Unlike us who exile the people who disobey the rules of our clan, they execute them first, then refine them and turn them into something called blood source. You don't want to know about the details. But, you should remember that if not for their fewer numbers, their strength might have crossed the combined strength of the other clans. No one knows about their origins, not even their clan leader. They merged into the Death Clan around 50,000 years ago during the Fifth Epoch. Everyone in the clan has the same arcana, their own blood. So, this so-called blood source will help them keep alive in case they lost too much blood. Azzy quickly guessed that there's a connection between the blood source and their arcana, the moment he heard what their arcana is. That's right, Avia nodded in response, not getting surprised by his quick responses anymore. In our every mission of assassination, there will be a member of Blood Clan follow the team to refine the body and collect the blood source. However, there's also a clan rule that they can't needlessly kill a person just so to collect the blood source. Strangely, they have a longer lifespan than a normal person, almost double. Do you know their current clan leader is in the same generation as clan head even though he's an 8-star Arcana Master, where the life limit was only supposed to be 5,000 years. The clan records say it's because they are consuming the life force of a person from the blood source. Azzy nodded, indicating he understood on the outside, meanwhile, shaking his head inwardly as he thought, that's because they aren't humans. Their race is a blood race, a mutated race formed from humans back during prehistoric times. I wonder why their clan leader doesn't know when it was clearly written in the Book of Death. I wonder whether this book is more special than I thought. Avia continued with the next clan. Next comes the Smoke Clan. They specialize in healing and poisons. Most of them just stay as supporters. Their arcana like Crescent Clan is nothing special. But, they do have the largest numbers, although still useless. When she was describing the Smoke Clan, Azzy felt a clear disgust in her tone, like she's clearly looking down on them, although there's a faint arrogance. The last but not least, the Ash Clan. They are the same as Crescent, collateral descendants of the founder from one of his concubines. They are unique in their own way. They are called the Clan of Twins. Clan of Twins. Azzy went into his memories and remembered the information about the history of the clan. It was founded by the twin sons of Azrael Garcia from his third mistress. One of them inherited the Death Scythe from the founder and the other son inherited the Arcana of Ash. Whenever the women of the Ash clan conceive a child, they will always turn out to be twins, and just like their clan founders, one inherits the arcana of their father while the other receives their mother. In a rare case both receive twin arcana. So, any doubts? Avia asked after completing the clan's history details. Out of all the complicated things, Azzy asked the most useless question that every 11-year-old arcana master in the world knows except for him. Earlier, you said that you awakened the daggers after you awakened that whip. Does that mean the twin arcana users don't awaken two soul cards at once? At first, Avia was surprised, but then, she remembered he did nothing but tempering his body for the past 3 years. So, she explained to him patiently. No, it doesn't work that way. To know of that, you should understand what is soul card, first. As he answered, Grandpa told me that soul card is the materialization of the soul power which exists as a medium between arcana and the soul power. Avia nodded in response, indicating he was right. Every person has 2 bloodlines within him that come from their father and mother respectively. Most of the normal people get to born with low soul power, below 2, and both arcana absorb the share of the energy, according to their capabilities to keep themselves alive. When a person reaches the age of 8, the soul card will be formed and both of them fight against each other to get into it, no matter how minute or powerful they are. Now, when they fight each other, each will be damaged in the process, and in the end, because of the low amount of soul power, they will disappear. All of it will happen in seconds of time. That's why most people only bring out a blank soul card. As for single arcana users, one of their arcana turns out to be stronger and kills the other before entering the soul card. But, there are rare cases like 2 compatible arcana, which don't fight against each other for a spot into soul card. In those cases, they compromise and enter the soul card together. They are the set arcana. Like in your case. Mostly, it's only possible if both of them are of tool type. Then, there are other cases where they will compromise in a different way. One will enter the soul card and will be awakened and the other waits for its turn. Wait a second. As he suddenly interrupts with confusion, wait for their turn. Does that mean, there's a second awakening? Yes, Avia nodded, and then, asked in return, do you know why the restrictions for awakening are between the ages of 8 and 12? As he answered, Grandpa told me that the soul card and the soul orb started to form at the age of 4. And at the age of 8, the transparent soul orb will start to condense. His eyes widen in realization, so, it's because of that, huh? Now, I understood. The soul card usually stays inside the soul orb, along with the soul energy/power. At the age of 13, the soul orb becomes so thick that even if a soul card forms again, it won't be able to penetrate the soul orb and connect with soul power. Avia nodded, feeling proud inside about this student of her, despite feeling frustrated at the same time knowing that she was fated to lose against him in the future. Yes. The soul card takes 4 years to form, no matter what kind of heavenly genius one is. This rule stayed absolute in the past 100,000 years. So, those who awaken their arcana at the age of 8 will get another chance to awaken their second arcana again when they are 12. But, to awaken a second arcana, one must fulfill either of 2 conditions. One is to have 2 arcana that are compatible with each other. 2 is to have the second arcana that's still alive and recovered enough to penetrate the solid defense of the soul orb. As he quickly commented, the second condition is too difficult. There's only a 1% chance of achieving such a condition. You can only hope on the first one. Like mine, the whip and the twin daggers belong to dark type and complement each other when I held both of them. Avia replied, agreeing with him while indirectly telling him to not have hope when he participates in the awakening ceremony, next year. Maybe I was affected by this explanation. Why do I feel like I possess a second arcana? A crazy hope developed in his mind, at the time.